What are you handed in this question? Now remember, you got to have H, K, and R. What are you handed in this question? You got an H and a K. The center is always going to be H and K. So what are we missing? We're missing an R. Okay? We're missing an R, but do you see how it says, yeah, you know your center, and you know also one more piece of information, that the circle itself passes through a point. Okay? The circle itself passes through a point. Now, folks, let me just make sure that you understand this. If I put a point right here in my circle does not pass through the point I just drew. That point is inside the circle, but it is not part of the circle. So when it says that the circle passes through a point, that literally means that that point has to be on, I feel like I'm in Sesame Street, in, on, out, right? So if I've got a point that passes through, or the circle passes through a point, that point has to be on the circle. Okay, so that's what that means, just to make sure that we understand that. So let's go back to number 3. So if I'm passing through this point, by the way, what's the generic letters for any point? X and Y. Okay. So here's an X, here's a Y. Now think back to your standard equation. If you took your standard equation and you plugged in the H, the K, an X, and a Y, what would be the only thing unknown in that equation? Oh, an R. So if I just plug in those 4 things, I can find R, and then if I can find R, I can write my standard equation because I'll have my H, K, and R. Okay, so 2-step process here. Let's go find R first, and then we can write our equation. So finding R, what are you going to write in for your first glob squared? What's going to go inside the glob? -2, because that's your X. And then what'd you say? -2, because that's your minus H part. All right, plus, let's get our second glob and square it. What's going to go inside for our second glob? Yeah, -4 plus 7, quantity squared, is equal to, what's going to go on the other side? R squared. We don't know that. But the nice thing is it's the only unknown. Okay, so I can solve for that. All right, so what do you get for your first term? 16. What do you get for your second term? 9. Which is what? 25. What were the directions? What's my goal here? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to get my standard equation. Okay, does my standard equation require an R, or does my standard equation require an R squared? Go back to your standard equation. Yeah, it requires an R squared. Okay, I have my R squared. So let's write it. Standard equation. First glob, what's it going to look like? X minus 2 quantity squared plus, keep going. Why, I just couldn't hear the rest of it. Plus 7 quantity squared is equal to 25.